Well, here I am back in the gardens in France. I'm going to just show you a short demonstration about colour, the basics of colour. I'm going to take that from an earlier film done last week in England, and a little bit of film from a big double disc of colour and drawing that I've made, the two big DVD sets from a while back, and they're very, very comprehensive. We might actually gradually bring those into uploading onto the download site soon, because I think they're so important. I mean, so comprehensive. They work from coloured pencil drawings to pencil drawings, right through to portrait work, how to mix different colours, how to scale drawings, light and shade, tone, everything is on those two double discs. So we're looking at bringing those for you before we even do more with the oil painting or with the watercolours or with the pastels, because they're so important as a foundation. That's what Trevor and I are just looking at for you at the moment anyway. Just for a minute, just to get you started off, because I know some of you are already struggling with drawing, let's just look at scale and how we can simply scale a photograph onto a canvas by using the grid method, and even paint from a scene by using elastic bands across a frame. We'll show those ways of working, and I'll just take then from an earlier piece of film, as I say the other week, this business of using a limited palette to do a little water, to show you how we can use a few colours, 4 colours, 6 colours, whatever, in an oil painting or a watercolour to produce a very simple painting. And then, as I say, in more detail with colour mixing, we'll deal with that in later films. Each of the lessons will show you a template. It will give you a photograph which you can trace off to then bring onto your canvases or your paper and work on that same scale that you've printed off. So I'm going to show you how we can do that tracing and how we can scale those up by using the grid method as well. Well, this morning, to aid you with the freebie I gave you on the watercolour here from a while ago now, I'm going to just help you to understand how we can scale up a picture, the picture that I've given you here, ready to paint. The most simple way is to take the photograph, print it, and then we can just put chalk over the back of this and draw around to make a simple tracing directly onto the same size paper. But if you want to go larger, as here, and I'm going to paint the painting again and do it very differently this time. I'm going to use a very limited palette, just a few colours, which I'll tell you about in a moment, to do this, so you can keep it even more simple. We could do it with less colours, we could do it with more colours. There are so many ways to paint any one painting, but let's just see how we can scale this up. Now, immediately, if we wanted to go onto a larger canvas or paper, if I put this the top left of the paper or the canvas, and I draw a diagonal line through here with a ruler or a bit of stick, in this case it almost fits the paper. Look, you can see where it would come down to here, that diagonal line would finish here. That is why I put a vertical line. This is the same scale of this picture, would be the same scale as coming up to there, so that's the same scale. If I did it on this piece of board, I'd go from here right down to there on the board, and that would be the excess piece. So I'd have to add some picture onto that. If I had excess at top or bottom, then I'd either have to add more sky or a little bit more on at the base. So a very simple way just to find the size of your photograph to the size of your canvas, and then you know what you have to add on. The next stage on from that, for me, is to divide up and make a grid of the picture. And here you can see, and I'll show you now on the camera, I've divided up this same photograph into simple quarters. You can do more if you want. The more you divide it up, the easier it is for you to see the shapes within those squares, those grids. And I've divided this halfway first, then a quarter way, and so on. It doesn't even have to be exact. You can make it exact and measure it up, but as long as you're approximate, it's going to be about right for what you want. And we don't want to be painting a tight painting of this, we want to be painting a very loose painting. I'm going to show you today because I've had a couple of you already try this and you seem to be getting bogged down with trying to paint the various parts of it. Let's just try and paint an effect of light with this one first of all and show you how easy it can be that way with this little demonstration. It's a freebie for you again. So I'm going to show you how to scale and then how to draw it out and then how to paint this nice and loosely with a limited palette. It's a free lesson which will link with the Peter Wood Arts studio that we're doing. We're running courses for you, and so we're going to do more watercolour in the future, and we're looking at doing the acrylics and everything else as well. But first we've got to get the oils off the ground and see if we have enough interest. If we do, we'll expand. If we don't, well, it's been fun and you can carry on with these, but you won't get the step-by-steps as we're doing as clearly here in as much detail. And of course, when you're with the Peterwood Art Studio, I'm going to be able to help you a lot more as well. You can be in constant touch with me, I can look at your pictures, I can give you advice, as I've been doing already with some of you. And we're going to have the gallery too. We've got the new gallery there, we can put your pictures up as they come along and you can all see each other's work being done. Right, anyway, we'll move on. Let's divide this picture up now. Now if we work within a reasonable drawing, we tend to get a reasonable painting. If we work within a very loose, bad drawing, it tends to exaggerate the bad things, I find. So it doesn't have to be a perfect drawing, just the basics. And the method I want to show you now is almost like when you had a child's comic and you would join the dots up and a face would appear. We're going to make the salient points and marks and angles. So let's just, I'm not even going to bother measuring exactly, I'm going to go to approximates, halfway, halfway, halfway again, so into quarters, and the same at the sides. If you want to be exact you can, but as I say, I'm not going to try to do an exact painting with this. And I've got a T-square here, but you could just draw these out in a simpler fashion than this, I'm sure. Let me just draw those lines down quite lightly, just to grid it at the moment to get you used to doing this method. And I'm going to show you in this film more complicated ways of doing this as well. And you can see that isn't quite exact as quarters now, but it'll be near enough what I want. And we know that this is going to be slightly small anyway, so I've deliberately left that piece on the end there. But let's just get it across. So you can use a T-square or just a ruler, or when I'm working out of doors I just approximate. I just put the marks at the edges and just approximate up. So you can see I haven't got exact quarters on this, but I'm not that bothered about that because it'll be near enough what I want. If you want to measure exactly you can do so. So let's just take now the one I've already shown you here and section it out. This is what I want to get at now. Let's take this head here as an important part. That head comes approximately 2/3 up this block here. So 1, 2 as an approximation is where the top of that head comes. So I'm just going to make a mark at the angle of that head. How far back does it come? Well, if we come up from that head, it's here. If we start to divide up the paper, it's just inside a quarter. So if I go from there to the quarter here, it's just inside, bring that mark down, and that's where the back of his head is going to come. So I'm just making these dots and dashes very simply. I'll just move in on that area so you can see it better. So we're working on this area here. So if I work on that now, you can see this is the top of the head here that I'm doing. Now the front of his face, if we come up from that line there, again, that's the halfway, that's the quarter. The front of his face is about a quarter again, so about an eighth. So 1, 2, and then here, and that's where the front of his face is going to come. So I'm going to make that angle there at the front of his face, so that slight curve. Now the angle comes down at the front of his face like that. If I put a pencil here, you can see the angle line. It comes down at an angle like that, just a very light mark. Where does it finish? So if we come down this line here, there's a halfway, there's a quarter, is an eighth again. So halfway, quarter, 1/8, and that's where the chin comes here. So there's the bottom of his chin coming down at that angle. Here's the angle of the neck here. So it's approximately that. Now his hair, how far up his face? We've got halfway there, that's about halfway there, and up another 2/3 as the little mark there for his head. I'm going into more detail here than I'd normally go. Normally I would get all of these angles in. I just want to show you how we can build this up. Coming round to there, we've got that angle coming down the side of his face. Now how far down does the shoulder come? If I come across here to there, there's the halfway mark, and again we're about a quarter of the way up there, so halfway, quarter here, there's his shoulder at that level there. So if I come with the angle of that head back down to there, there's the angle with the pencil, back down to there, bring the angle of the shoulder, back of his neck here, the shoulder down, Where does it meet this line here? There's the halfway point. It's just inside the halfway point. It's here. So if I curve that angle down to meet that, there we are. We've got his shoulder. And just by making these various angles and marks in the right positions, the right shapes in the right places, the whole picture starts to come together. His chin comes out a little bit more in front there. Now where does this hand come here that he's got? We've got halfway there on that position, quarter way here. So here's my halfway, quarter way on there. That's those two marks there. If I now come into just inside half here, that's where her hair comes up at that angle. Her head is just a little bit below his, so I bring that across to here. That's just a construction line. This angle comes up, curves round into there. There's the top of her head. How far between these two? Then we can say, right, if we take this measurement with my pencil here and say, right, that is, so if I put my tip of my pencil on the end of his nose here and my finger there at the edge of her head, then that goes once, twice across his head. So half of that measurement, once, twice, is the distance between my finger and the pencil end. So it's there. So there's the angle off the top of her head, look there. There, and then straight down at that angle there, and you've almost got the two figures' heads, and it's as simple as that. We've just got to measure one shape to another. This shape up here, look, this bit of light behind her head. Don't necessarily need it, but I'm going to put it in just to show you. That halfway line is there, quarter line is there, this is just in between. That comes down to her head here, and comes from the halfway mark there at that angle. It finishes. Quarter is here, just inside the quarter again, quarter is there, inside the quarter again, just there. There's that angle, and that's that little white piece of stone behind here. Now we've just got to get her face. We don't want to put all the details in, we're just going to have an effective light here. We want the approximate shapes correctly to proportion and position. So we know they're in the right position in this grid. Let's just look at how this hand and face come up. The hand, his nose is coming out here, and the hand is, let's see, that's halfway there, that's a quarter way there. The hand is a quarter way up, so halfway is here, quarter way is there. That hand is just above the quarter, so halfway, quarter, the hand is here. There's a slight space in between. The angle of the hand is there. Comes down in a wedge shape. Where does it come on here? There's my half, there's my quarter, and it's into thirds almost here. Halfway, quarter. Divide this into thirds. The hand is coming just here and down from there to there. It's a block shape. Just look at basic shapes. Don't worry about fingers, don't worry about eyes and noses. Just get the approximate, the basic shapes. It's very important at the moment. Then her face. Where does the chin come? If I bring the chin across here, there's halfway, there's quarter. The chin is about a quarter again, so halfway, quarter, quarter again. The chin is about here. And it comes up at that angle. Where does the hair come? How far back? It's just, there's the back of the head, there's the front of the face. It's just beyond halfway this way, so there's halfway, just beyond halfway. There's the hair coming down. So we look at these shapes one to another, measuring, and we've almost got the two faces positioned there in a block form. Then the shadow is going to come round here. We've got her hand actually coming up into there, just having her hand in that shape there coming around. Comes down in a block form to her wrist here. Keep the shape simple. Don't try and draw, as I say, don't try and draw all the details, just keep it simple. So there we are, that's the way to do that. Now let's look at this wall here. From the top of his head here, there's a curve coming right round there. As this wall comes up behind, it finishes just inside halfway here. So there's my line at that angle. It isn't straight, it's at that angle. Bring the pencil up from your angle, you can see it's that angle. Now we bring this quite complicated drawing, we bring that angle across to there, and there's that bit of wall. How high up does this come? Right, there's my halfway mark there, here's a quarter here, here's my halfway mark here, here's a quarter here. That's where that bit of green comes down. How far down? Halfway there, quarter there, and it's just above the quarter here. quarter, it's there, that like that, there we are, there's that line coming down, right round here. Now we can meet that line there. This line of the green here is just inside. It comes, how far up? About that far up. Right up into there. Then we've got an angle coming down here. Now that point is almost exactly on halfway, so here's halfway. Bring that construction line over there. Get this angle right with my pencil going up like that. There's my angle. So I know now, if this finishes here, all I've got to do is a line like that, and there's this piece here, already drawn. Got to get that vertical, so we've got to use these vertical lines to make sure that remains vertical all the way down there. I could use my ruler if I wanted, but all I want is an approximate at the moment. Right down through there, the bottom. This is important, this bit of light is important. I'm going to use these in a very loose and subtle way shortly as effective light, rather than painting all the details in. There's that table. Once we've got that table, we can see an angle here, and the more we get, the more of these angles we get that are correct, the more we can work to those. So that's just this quarter here, that's that line there. Coming from that, and in this we've got a shape there, look, which is that shape, and that fits exactly there, comes up and across through here, just through the top of that line there, down here, through to that bar, that umbrella stand, through here. There's the angle of that coming down there. If that is correct, then this is halfway. Halfway is where this little curl comes here. And you can see the whole thing coming together. So I will continue now doing this drawing and speed this up so you can see how quickly it'll work. So there we are, that's all I'm really going to be needing in detail for this. Just these basic lines, fairly loosely drawn, but all in approximately the right positions. And the proportions are just about there. I don't want to go into painting in all the noses and eyes and all this sort of thing. What I want are these basic shapes just to get. So there we are, we have the whole composition. See now that I've got these figures just loosely drawn in the right sort of proportions and shapes. If I wanted to get all of these little details in, I would need to put masking fluid in, but I'm going to do this just with almost one brush, just to show you how simply we can paint this. So then we're going to do this with a limited palette, and I'm going to use Hooker's Green, Yellow Ochre, Aureolin Yellow, as opposed to Lemon Yellow, because it's more translucent, Burnt Sienna, and my Indigo. The Indigo will give me these lovely blue darks, plus a little bit of ultramarine. So just those few colours. Show those on screen now. Right, I want to have an overall tint of green. I want this painting to be to the power of green this time, so that it pulls it all together. So actually I'm going to work up green into my colours. A lot of my colours are going to have green in them. And we'll unite it What we want to get here is an effect of light. So I'm going to start with my oval mop and do a fairly wet into wet and wet next to wet painting, leaving these lovely lights and gradually building up the darks all in one go. Now I'm working vertically here, so it's not quite so easy for me. You can work on the flat, so things are going to trickle a little bit in places. Don't worry too much about texture at this stage. I'm using a hot press paper here, so it's a smooth paper. Normally I would use a textured paper, a knot paper on this. I would advise that you use a knot. And we'll start with our lights, leaving our lights behind and working up our green tints and warmer colours. So let's start, in fact, with the greens. I'm going to start with my Aureolin yellow, deliberately on this, and give a thin wash of that, leaving some lights here and there immediately, because you want to let these lights sparkle down and in, straight down and through here. And I'm starting with the Aureolin yellow because I want to have some of these lighter colours just glowing through at the edges, right through there, leaving a little bit of white here and there, as I say, not being too careful. I want you to get looser, because so many of you are so tight with your work and you're trying to paint these various shapes in. Don't want that to lift a little bit of paint out there, look. These lights, we just lift them out here using the dry brush technique of just coming across that wet paint and lifting it out. Now, let's go a lot warmer and darker. We'll take some of our yellow ochre and a little bit of the Hooker's green. Get it going. So make quite a warm green with the yellow ochre on that. We can make, of course, the greens with our blues and yellows as well, and just an immediate coat of that straight in there and let that just blend down and in. Very simple colours, very simple shapes, and already we're getting an effect of light. I want to go much cooler now, so I'm going to add some of the ultramarine blue to it. We'll let those darks just come down in between here, getting the effect of light and shadow on there, and already now we've got the effect of light and shadow happening. But simple one single brush strokes if we can. If I want to go greener, I can go greener at any time. I'll take some more of that Hooker's green. But any time I want, I can come in and make that greener. And I can make the blues bluer while it's still wet. Just bring these colours into here. So a few simple brush strokes. Now lift it out, because I'm working on the vertical, I need to be able to lift out these bits of paint that are trickling down here. I'll just lift those away. Carry on down. Got the effect of light going there. I can go stronger if I want, but I'm not going to at the moment. I want to carry on down with this sort of green tints down here. I'm going to give it a wash now of the ultramarine blue and a wee bit of that green just down through here, and let that link into there, very pale in the background. That blue a little bit stronger as it comes over the table here. So we're just graduating the colour slightly, and I leave this light behind here. This is important. We do want to start leaving these bits of white. Now, while that's still wet, again I'm going to take stronger ultramarine, because I just want to do this with a few colours, not to overdo my colours in this. And I'm going to bring that right down to here, with a few simple stripes and strokes here. Get the illusion, the feeling of background going on back here. See how loosely I'm painting this, just painting these shapes. Don't start trying to paint an object, paint them as an effect of light and shapes, and those will just appear then. Take some of my Aureolin yellow while this is still wet, and I'm going to paint in that bit of bush and tree behind there which is light, a little bit stronger with it perhaps. A bit more sunlight back there we go. And while I've got the Aureolin yellow on my brush, I'm going to paint her hair into, just as an effect of very light, just a bit of white showing back on there. And while I'm at it again, I'm going to bring that Aureolin yellow into here. It almost gives a green tint as it comes down across his face here. This green is going to pervade into everything. Greeny blues we just did there, look. And that comes over it, so we start to link these colours together in the same way as it comes over here. It's only just a couple of brush strokes, as quick as that, as simple as that. Really keep it simple. Going back into the background here, let's just bring some of this brown down this pole here, very thinly. There's really thin washes at the moment, still wetting to wet right down through here. The colours we've already got, a bit there on the end of the hand. Look at those shapes. Back to his face here, and I'm going to put more green across his face there. And look, these forms are coming, but we're using more of a palette towards green. I want to start building up these darks in. So I'm going to now take that Hooker's green quite lightly, just paint it over here as a glaze. These forms in here, these stripes, don't get too detailed, just indicate them as an effect of light. Just watch where they go, don't try and paint them in exactly. Just get them in the flowing in the form that they're going like this, just get the hinting of them. So I'm not going to try and paint all these lights, these darks in an exact pattern, I just want a feeling of this. Carry on working these lights in, Hooker's green, and this time a little bit of the yellow ochre into the Hooker's green to make it slightly more gold into his face as it comes around here and down these dark areas, right into there, right around through here. Now watercolour is something that I can show you the basics and the techniques, but it's something that you actually have to really come and practice. And although I can do step-by-steps with oils or acrylics, watercolour is something you need to feel. It's something you need to understand by actually using it. So how much water to put on, how much does it flow, and so on. Quite important. I'm going back to my yellow ochre now and burnt sienna, and I'm going to just warm up her face a bit more, stronger here. You see, I'm just dropping that in, and the effect of the face is coming. We're not going to try and paint the whole exact face. Find these lovely warms down here, a lot lighter, thinner, just down here, quite thinly through here. The effects of light. Painting an effect of light. We're not worried about trying to paint detail. Not at the shapes. Now the indigo, lovely colour indigo. It's sort of almost a black, deep Prussian blue. It gives a lovely warmth. And with that indigo I can either keep it cool like this, or I can add some of the burnt sienna to it to make the dark. So this is where you wanted the drawing to be quite reasonable, because I'm going to paint within those drawn shapes now and draw around those light areas, look, with the brush. I'm drawing with the brush now. And I'm going to leave the shape of his face standing out here. As long as we put the right colours and the right shapes, this figure will just start to appear, you see. I'm trying to get you away from painting too much detail, getting too bogged down with all these bits of detail in here. It's a loose way of painting. As I say, if you want to paint a photograph and you want to copy it, that's up to you. I don't want to copy a photograph, I want to use it. I want to get the feeling of all of these various forms, shades. I want to let these colours blend one into another as I make them stronger and darker and get these shadows working. By putting in these darks in the right places, these forms will start to appear. Dark at the top of her head too. A bit darker there. Using the paint thinly, the same colours. Don't want to go into detail, I'm just going to bring those forms down. I should have left a little bit more light at the top of his head there, so I'm just going to lift out a bit there. Lift out a bit over the top of the head. And a few more of these lines. I don't want to get bogged down with them. I'm just going to hint at these lines coming around the form. Don't get bogged down with them. Coming in a bit darker afterwards to again bring these forms out. And you can already see that we're getting the effect of these tables and chairs, and we haven't got to paint. The whole thing has more of a coherence. That's what I'm trying to get to you. You have a feeling of unity with the painting. Right back to the beginning again almost now, because I'm going back to my greens to start to pull the thing together. Some of this wetting to wet here, these tones down, and I'm going to have that lovely strong green now. I'm going to come back over here, this wetting to wet that we did earlier on. A lovely wash of green back through there to really bring that out. Even the stonework, just remember that the stonework is not, I want it to stand up like a sore thumb. I want that to be pulled together with the green. Hopefully you see now what I mean about painting very loosely but being able to have the green or one colour pulling everything together so that green is coming through nearly everything. And just by effects of light, not by doing detail at all, our painting is almost there. And we're just doing finishing strokes for as loose as I want to go on this. This is up to you as to how dark you want a painting to go, isn't it? Especially with the watercolour. You might like to keep to very, very light tones. But here I've decided just to go that one stage further with this and just bring out some of these darks. And there we are. I mean, I can keep painting and I can tighten up. If we start loose, we can finish tight. We can't start. It's not easy in most cases to start tight and then go loose. We need to be loose at the beginning and gradually build up. And there we are. I think that painting says it all really. Some people would find it messy, some say, oh no, that's interesting, but it's just another way to work for you. And showing how we can build up a picture very quickly, but keeping to, in this case, a base colour of green. But watch these lights against darks. You took all the lights out in some of the paintings you've done, and that's not so good. I'm wondering about this big white bulb at the back here. I'm going to soften that just a bit. And hopefully that was a bit of fun for you, just to get an idea of how loosely we can work up shapes. This red's going to play against the green slightly that I'm putting in now, this burnt sienna. Just to play a little bit more against the cool colours there. So look how simply we can make these shapes by indicating them rather than trying to be too exact.